So can you say who you are and what your job is?
Billy Sinclair, shop steward for Unite at Manchester, Mears, joiner by trade.
And we're here celebrating your win in the dispute. How does that affect you personally?
Personally, it gives me a pay rise of over £2,000 initially. 12 months later, a rise of £1,500. The year after, a raise of £1,500 put me on 27,000, nearly on parity with the rest of Manchester.
And during the dispute, how many strike days did you take altogether?
We took 2 lots of 30, I believe. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah.
Time passes. All of which were worth it.
And so that went on for a long time. Was there points where people were beginning to worry that maybe it was stalling and that you might not get the result you did?
No, never. When we went back in after the original issues in May, when we came out, we went back in, we were reballoted, which the law says we have to do, and we came out with a bigger majority on the ballot. So we came out stronger the second time round.
That's fantastic. So how would you say the workforce has changed through the course of the dispute?
Workforce has become one workforce. Just stop that.
Yeah, you were saying about how the workforce has changed during the dispute.
Become more militant, it's become more united, it's become stronger as a workforce to stand up to the managers and their bullying.
So at the start of the dispute, what did the union organisation look like?
It was in bits, it was all over the place. Over 4 years we managed to reconstruct, make the men stronger, think about what was going on and stand up for the rights as members.
And how many reps did you have?
We had 3 at the beginning, 1 at the beginning, Billy Nugent, and then me and Colin Pitt joined it, and we built up and worked to get the members to come as one union.
And during the course of the dispute, how did you organise things? Was it just the 3 of you?
No, we had a leverage group of another 6 that came on board, were brilliant, absolutely brilliant ideas, came up with so much information, and they got things, helped us get things organised and get things running. We couldn't have done it without the leverage.
And how did they meet? Was that a regular meeting?
We just used to meet regularly in McDonald's because that's the only place we could meet and discuss things without the management knowing about it.
And as you've gone back to work, what's the union organisation look like now?
Twice as strong, twice as militant.
So if some of those people stayed involved, that got involved during the dispute?
The leverage will never be disbanded and the unity amongst the men will never be lost. It's the biggest team building exercise Mears have ever done, and it's been the most successful they've ever done by keeping us together and keeping one workforce together. Brilliant.
What would you say you've personally learnt from the dispute?
You can't trust management, you can't trust politicians, and you have to keep fighting and stay solid throughout to beat them, and that's the only way you'll beat them.
So who are you and what's your job?
I'm Ian Fitz, I'm a roofer.
And what's the settlement mean for you?
It's a good settlement. Not happy to tell you the truth. For a long time, 9 years, we've had no pay rise whatsoever. And I think this should have been backdated for the 9 years. Totally backdated for the 9 years.
And what does it mean you get now?
In 3 years' time, we'll be up to £27,000, which is a good settlement.
So for you, what's that as a percentage roughly?
20% percentages.
Right. And how's the workforce changed over the period of the dispute?
Brought us closer together. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I would also like to thank Unite Union for what they've done for us. They've done absolutely brilliant. We've all stuck together. We've made all friends. Brilliant. And we're out today celebrating.
And do you think the union's going back stronger?
Yeah. The only recommendation I could make to anyone who's thinking about going on strike, everybody has to be on board. You'll go through hell and back, stick together. We're all in this together. Just stick together and you'll get there.
So do you think, because you had over 80 strike days altogether, do you think people felt they were going to get a settlement like this? Or?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I really did. The longer it went on, the stronger we got. Trips down to London, pressure on councillors, union being involved, MPs being involved. Yeah. If everyone gets involved and we all stick together, you can win it, you can do it.
And what have you learnt out of the dispute?
Me personally, I've met a lot of people who I thought I knew, and I've realised how strong people can be being together. If you stick together, you can do it. No matter what trade or wherever you come from, wherever you work, stick together. You can beat them. You can beat them, and you will win. But you've got to stick together.
Can you explain who you are and what your job is?
I'm John Biggs, I'm a plumber at Mears, Manchester.
And we're here at your victory party. What have you got out of the settlement of the dispute?
I've got quite a substantial rise, roughly over the period of over the 2 years of the rise. I think I've got the best part of £5,000.
And what's that as a percentage, roughly?
I think it's about 20%.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic result. So people are here celebrating. How's it changed the workforce, do you think?
I think it's brought the workforce more together. It's people you've never spoken to before the strike started. Now, you'd see them every day, you'd chat to them, and I think it's brought a lot of them guys together. Where we were at the start of it, we were quite spread out and disorganised, and now we're a much more focused workforce. I think that's to the detriment of Mears management, because they don't like that. Yeah. They've always worked on the principle of divide and conquer.
So are people more involved in the union, you think, going forward?
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And what have you personally, do you think you've learnt out of it?
I've learned if you all stick together and you've got right on your side, that you can get a result if you try hard.
So what's your name and what's your job?
Good afternoon, Ian. I'm Colin. I'm a United rep at Manchester Working and Mears. We're here today to celebrate our recent victory against Mears the company and Manchester City Council as regards to the way we've been forgotten about, basically, by two companies over the last 10 years.
And what does the victory mean for you personally?
For me personally, it's the end of a 4-year struggle that's been very, very hard work between trying to get the council to listen, trying to get Mears to listen, trying to come to an agreement where they can see that we're not asking for more than anyone else, we're asking for parity. And I still don't feel we've quite reached that, but the stage we've got to is an area I didn't think we could ever get to, in all honesty.
So what have you got?
What we've got is a 3-year deal starting with payments from April this year, April 19, April 20, that will see us on, for example, an electrician on £28,000. I'm currently on £23,000. So you can work the percentages out yourself. It's around about 23%, I think, for myself, an increase over that period. Obviously, I'm finding out since my council tax is going up 5%, so you've got to bear these things into consideration. But as a workforce, we are moving from the worst paid workforce in the Northwest on responsive maintenance contracts to somewhere in the middle when it comes to benchmarking. I think we're going to end up better off than First Choice Homes in Oldham, Salix Homes maybe, as regards to pay. Maybe not conditions, we'll wait to see, because Mears are obviously going to now consider restructuring, so what that's going to bring we don't know. However, at least we can grin and bear it now with a decent salary, and we can plan ahead for the next 3 years what we're going to get.
So how would you say the workforce has changed over the course of the dispute?
The workforce is unrecognisable. Before the disputes, there was 3 or 4 of us involved in negotiations. We got little feedback off the workforce. A lot of people felt alienated and it couldn't be fixed. Myself one of them, in a way. I thought it was too big a gap to be fixed. And as we've gone along, we're here meeting today in the Wetherspoons as a kind of victory meeting, if you can call it that. And husbands and wives are turning up, and the solidarity that's been shown with the workforce over these last 10, 12 months, absolutely unbelievable. We took our first strike action. I could not believe the landslide victory we got to take that action. The second action, Mears assured the City Council, don't worry, they will not have the bottle to go out again on this second action, don't worry about it. Councillor Bernard Priest, the Deputy Leader of Manchester City Council, was informed the day we had the second ballot that that had increased, and the membership felt more than ever, this is what we have to do. That's what we did. That's when they realised this has got to be sorted, this has got to be fixed. What we did was we increased our leverage, we attacked both Mears, Manchester City Council, and indeed Northwoods Housing themselves, who pretended to be the middleman, that it was nothing to do with them. We started to contact the tenants to explain how they'd been left behind by still being a JVC, and that was because of the debt that Manchester City Council had run up against their particular area of housing. For example, the City Treasurer in January in 2017 explained that the stock value was £43 million, but Manchester City Council owed £121 million on them properties, i.e. they would never become housing association status until that debt had been removed. Tenants started to find out about this. We have elections for councillors coming up in May. All of a sudden, councillors started to get involved in our dispute.
So obviously there's been a lot of interest in housing over the recent months, particularly since the Grenfell fire, and there's tenants getting organised in Manchester. What do you hope will happen with housing?
What we hope for our housing is it's very easy to split it up into different individual groups, i.e. One Manchester, which sounds like One Manchester, but it isn't really, because obviously we're separate again with Northwoods Housing, different landlords throughout the country. What we want is one standard policy to protect people. What we do not want is another Grenfell. That is the worst scenario that can happen. We spoke to people recently in Collyhurst, in Miles Platin, and the last thing we can afford again is another tragedy like what's happening in Grenfell.
And what have you learnt from the dispute?
What have I learnt from the dispute? Well, having not had a minute of trade union rep training, I have learned a hell of a lot. I would like to think I could help anybody during a dispute, but an important thing is people like yourself, Ian, came along that have been in the middle of disputes and guided us. And it's the solidarity of everybody standing together and saying, no, we're not having it. We're not having it. And if I had one thing to say through any dispute anywhere, it would be less chat, more bat.